Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be looking at Reiki.
Okay.
It's a complementary health therapy. It's been generating a lot of buzz lately. You sent us this research article.
Right.
It's called Reiki is Better Than Placebo and Has Broad Potential as a Complementary Health Therapy. I'm really curious to dig into this and see what the science has to say.
Yeah, it's a good one to explore. Reiki originated in Japan back in the 1920s,
Okay.
and it's a non-invasive practice. The practitioner just gently places their hands on or slightly above a fully clothed recipient, and they work through a series of hand positions with the intention of facilitating healing.
One of the things that's always kind of intrigued me about Reiki is this idea of attunement.
Right.
Can you explain what that is and why it's considered so central to the whole practice?
Sure. Attunement is where a Reiki master is said to open a person's energy channels,
Okay.
enabling them to channel Reiki energy. These energy channels are often described as pathways for life force energy to flow through the body. So the idea is that this attunement process allows the practitioner to act as a conduit for this energy, facilitating healing in the recipient.
I can see why that might be a point of debate, particularly within the scientific community.
Right.
So let's delve into this research article that you sent us.
Right.
This review looks at 13 clinical studies on Reiki,
Right.
all published in peer-reviewed journals. Can you tell us more about the studies themselves?
Sure.
From the methodology, like how rigorous were they?
They were actually very rigorous in their design. They included placebo controls, often referred to as sham Reiki, to account for any placebo effect.
Right.
They also had a significant number of participants in the Reiki groups, often more than 20,
Okay.
which adds to the power of the findings. And what's particularly fascinating is that 2 of these studies used rats as subjects,
Oh, wow.
which eliminates the placebo effect
Completely.
with humans.
That's a really interesting approach. So after analyzing all of this research, what were the overall conclusions? Did the studies actually support that Reiki is more than just a placebo?
The results were really compelling. Out of the 13 studies, 8 demonstrated that Reiki was indeed more effective than placebo
Okay.
in producing positive outcomes.
That's significant. What about the remaining studies? Did they find any benefit or were they entirely negative?
Yeah, so while 8 showed clear benefits, 4 studies had kind of inconclusive results.
Okay.
And 1 indicated that Reiki was not beneficial in that particular context. It's important to consider that even with rigorous methodology, scientific studies can have limitations.
Of course, yeah.
Factors like sample size, the specific techniques used,
Right.
variations in the conditions being treated, all these can influence outcomes.
That's a good point. It really highlights the need for, continued research to clarify the effects and applications.
Right.
So let's talk about the impact Reiki seems to have on the body. What specific physiological responses were observed in these studies, and what might those responses tell us about how Reiki works?
Okay, so a number of studies documented some pretty interesting physiological changes in people receiving Reiki. So they observed a reduction in heart rate, even in rats that were exposed to stress-inducing noise.
Wow.
Suggesting, a calming effect on the cardiovascular system. There was also evidence of lower blood pressure and increased heart rate variability.
What is the significance of that? Increased heart rate variability. I've heard that term before, but I'm not entirely sure what it means in the context of health.
Yeah, heart rate variability is a very positive sign.
Okay.
It refers to the variation in the time intervals between heartbeats.
Okay.
Higher variability indicates a healthier nervous system
Gotcha.
that can adapt effectively to conditions.
So low heart rate variability would be a sign of stress.
Yeah, and even associated with an increased risk of heart disease.
So the fact that Reiki appears to increase heart rate variability would suggest that it has a positive impact on the autonomic nervous system.
Exactly. These findings strongly indicate that Reiki activates the parasympathetic nervous system,
Okay.
often referred to as the rest and digest system,
Right.
which is responsible for promoting relaxation, reducing stress, and of course, facilitating healing.
Okay, that makes sense. Now let's get into how Reiki might be helpful for people dealing with chronic health conditions. What insights did the research provide in this area?
So the studies exploring Reiki as a complementary therapy for chronic conditions had some encouraging results. In individuals struggling with chronic illness, Reiki was associated with reductions in pain, depression, and anxiety levels.
Okay.
Among blood cancer patients, Reiki seemed to improve self-esteem, feelings of personal control, and overall quality of life.
That's really promising.
Additionally, some promising effects on depression were observed in elderly individuals residing in nursing homes.
So, while more research is obviously needed, these findings suggest that Reiki could potentially be a valuable tool for people, navigating the challenges of chronic illness,
Yeah.
helping them to manage symptoms, improve their well-being, and enhance their quality of life.
Mm.
Were there any studies that focused on the use of Reiki in acute settings, such as like during medical procedures
Yes.
or in post-surgical recovery?
There were a few studies that explored this aspect. In two studies focusing on pain relief during colonoscopies and pediatric dental procedures, Reiki didn't show a significant benefit over the placebo group. However, other research suggests there might be potential benefits for post-surgical recovery,
Okay.
with some patients reporting, faster healing, reduced pain levels, and a decreased need for pain medication after receiving Reiki.
So it seems like the jury's still out on whether Reiki can be an effective tool for pain management during medical procedures. But the potential benefits for post-surgical recovery are really interesting and warrant further investigation. I'm curious, though, about how these physiological effects we've been discussing,
Right.
like reduced heart rate and increased heart rate variability might actually be happening. Is there a connection between Reiki and the vagus nerve?
That's a great question. And it highlights one of the most exciting frontiers in Reiki research.
Hmm.
Emerging evidence suggests that Reiki may indeed be influencing the vagus nerve,
Like,
which plays a critical role in regulating a wide range of bodily functions, including heart rate, digestion, inflammation, and even mood.
so if Reiki is stimulating the vagus nerve, that could explain some of the positive effects we've been discussing,
Exactly.
like the reduction in stress
Right.
and the activation of the parasympathetic nervous system.
That's the connection that researchers are starting to explore. The vagus nerve acts as a two-way communication pathway.
Between the brain and the body.
Mm-hmm.
And stimulating it can have profound effects on both physical and mental health. For example, there's growing evidence that vagus nerve stimulation can be beneficial for conditions like depression,
Oh, wow.
anxiety, and chronic pain, which aligns with some of the reported benefits of Reiki.
That's fascinating. It really starts to paint a picture of how Reiki might be working. On a physiological level, tapping into this powerful neural pathway to promote healing and well-being.
Yeah, it really underscores the importance of viewing the body as an interconnected system,
Absolutely.
where, the mind, the nervous system, and these various physiological processes
Oh,
are all influencing one another. It's not just about treating isolated symptoms,
yeah,
but rather understanding these underlying mechanisms at play.
absolutely. This connection to the vagus nerve really opens up some intriguing possibilities for how Reiki might be integrated into healthcare. Could it potentially become a more mainstream approach to managing, stress?
Anxiety,
Hmm.
or even chronic pain, perhaps reducing our reliance on medications or more invasive interventions.
It's definitely a compelling area for further exploration. Imagine a future where people could readily access Reiki to regulate their nervous system,
Right.
promote a sense of calm and well-being, potentially as like a preventative measure
Hmm.
to maintain their health and resilience in the face of life's challenges.
It's almost like a paradigm shift, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like moving from a reactive approach to healthcare to a more kind of proactive and preventative model,
Yeah.
where we're empowering people to take charge of their own well-being.
Exactly. And that shift in perspective has the potential to revolutionize our relationship with health. Instead of solely focusing on addressing illness after it arises, we can prioritize practices that support the body's natural healing abilities
Right.
and foster a state of optimal wellness.
Now, amidst all this excitement about Reiki's potential, it's important to remember that, not every study has shown universally positive results. We also need to be mindful that there's still a lot we don't know about its mechanisms of action,
Right.
the long-term effects, and the specific conditions for which it might be most effective. So, what are some key areas where future research is needed just to gain a more comprehensive understanding of Reiki.
You're absolutely right. We need to approach this with a balanced perspective.
Mm.
Avoid, overstating the benefits
Yeah.
or presenting it as some kind of cure-all. Further research is crucial to delve deeper into various aspects, such as optimal dosage and treatment frequency, the role of the practitioner's experience and intention,
Mm.
and individual variations in response to Reiki. We also need more long-term studies to understand the lasting effects and how Reiki might contribute to overall health and well-being, over time.
And of course, ensuring that individuals seeking Reiki treatment are working with qualified and experienced practitioners.
Absolutely. It's essential to do your research.
Right.
Find a practitioner who has received proper training, adheres to ethical guidelines, and aligns with your personal values and beliefs.
This conversation has really piqued my curiosity about the attunement process.
Hmm.
You mentioned earlier that it involves a Reiki master opening a person's energy channels.
Right.
Is there a specific technique involved, or is it more of a kind of metaphorical concept?
The attunement process is often shrouded in a bit of mystery and is one of the most debated aspects of Reiki, even among practitioners. Traditionally, it's described as a ritual in which the Reiki master uses specific symbols
Okay.
and hand placements to activate the student's energy channels,
Right.
enabling them to channel Reiki energy. However, the precise nature of this process
Right.
and how it might work on a physiological or energetic level remains largely unexplained.
It's fascinating how Reiki seems to bridge the realms of kind of ancient wisdom and modern science, inviting us to consider the interconnectedness of mind, body, and energy in ways that we're only beginning to understand. Speaking of bridging realms, what are some of the challenges and opportunities that Reiki faces in gaining wider acceptance and integration within conventional medicine?
One of the main hurdles is the lack of standardization in Reiki training and practice.
All right.
There are numerous lineages and styles of Reiki, which can make it difficult to compare research findings and establish consistent protocols for treatment.
Okay, yeah.
This lack of uniformity can also lead to skepticism within the medical community,
Mm.
which often seeks, very clear, measurable evidence before embracing new therapies.
I imagine there's also a degree of resistance stemming from the fact that Reiki operates outside the dominant biomedical model of health, which tends to focus on treating physical symptoms with, pharmaceuticals or surgical interventions.
That's true. The concept of energy healing can be challenging for those who adhere strictly to a materialist view of the body. However, as we continue to unravel these intricate connections between the mind, the nervous system, and the body's energy field, and as more rigorous research emerges, demonstrating Reiki's physiological effects and clinical benefits, we may see a gradual shift in attitudes.
It seems like open-mindedness and a willingness to explore new possibilities are key on both sides of the equation. Ultimately, what matters most is finding the most effective ways to support people's health and well-being, regardless of the method. If Reiki can play a role in that, then it deserves a place at the table alongside other healthcare approaches.
I couldn't agree more. It's
Yeah.
about embracing a holistic perspective
Mm-hmm.
that recognizes the interconnectedness of our being and acknowledges that healing can occur on multiple levels: physical, emotional, and energetic. And as we learn more about these interconnected systems, we expand our potential to create a world where health and well-being are truly accessible to all.
One thing that really stood out to me in the research was that study using rats.
Right.
It just seems like such a unique and creative approach to studying Reiki.
It really is. By using rats, they were able to eliminate the human consciousness element and the placebo effect.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they got positive results, even in those animal studies,
Yeah.
suggests that there might be something really fundamental going on
Yeah.
beyond just our thoughts and beliefs.
It makes you wonder what is actually happening at a physiological level when Reiki is applied. Do you have any insights into that?
Well, as we talked about earlier, the research is pointing to the vagus nerve as a key player. Okay.
This nerve acts as that central communication pathway
Right.
between the brain and the body, and it regulates a wide range of functions, from inflammation to mood.
Mm-hmm.
And stimulating the vagus nerve can have these really profound effects on both physical and mental health,
Mm-hmm.
which, aligns with a lot of the reported benefits of Reiki.
So it's like Reiki is tapping into this powerful neural network
Yeah.
and promoting a state of, relaxation and balance.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to note that the vagus nerve also plays a crucial role in our social engagement system.
Oh, wow.
It influences our ability to connect with others and to feel safe and secure in our relationships.
So Reiki could potentially even have a positive impact on our social well-being as well.
It's certainly a possibility worth exploring. The research on vagus nerve stimulation and its impact on social behavior is still pretty early,
Right.
but it's a promising avenue for future research. I'm curious about the practical implications of all this research. If Reiki can activate the parasympathetic nervous system and, potentially stimulate the vagus nerve, what does that mean for people who are dealing with everyday stress, anxiety, or even chronic pain?
Well, it opens up all these really exciting possibilities for complementary and integrative healthcare. Imagine a world where people could access this really safe and gentle method like Reiki
Right.
to regulate their nervous systems, reduce stress, and potentially even reduce their reliance on medication or invasive procedures
Yeah.
for certain conditions.
It's a totally different way of thinking about healthcare, isn't it?
It is.
Moving away from just treating symptoms
Yeah,
and towards supporting the body's own natural capacity for healing and well-being.
absolutely. And it's not just about addressing physical ailments either.
Right.
Reiki's potential to improve, mental and emotional well-being is equally significant. In today's world, where stress and anxiety are just so prevalent, having tools like Reiki at our disposal
Yeah.
could be transformative.
What about the potential for Reiki in preventative healthcare? Could it be used to proactively support health and well-being even before chronic conditions develop?
That's a great question, and one that researchers are definitely starting to look into.
Okay.
If we can learn to harness the power of Reiki, to regulate our nervous systems and promote that sense of deep relaxation, it could have a really profound impact on our overall health and resilience and longevity.
So we're shifting from a reactive approach to healthcare to a more proactive and preventative one,
Exactly.
empowering people to take an active role in their own well-being.
Exactly. And that shift has the potential to create, a healthier and more vibrant society.
Now, I know we've been focusing on the potential benefits of Reiki, but I think it's also important to acknowledge that, there are some limitations. Not every study has shown positive results,
Right.
and there's still a lot we don't know about, exactly how it works or for whom it might be most effective.
Yeah.
It's important to approach Reiki with a balanced perspective, recognizing both its potential and the need for further research.
I completely agree. We don't want to overstate the benefits or present it as a cure-all.
Right.
There's still a lot we need to learn about optimal practices, long-term effects, and individual variations in response to treatment. So continued research is going to be essential.
This has been such a thought-provoking conversation.
Yes.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface
Me too.
of understanding the full potential of Reiki.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to be exploring this further.
It's been a pleasure sharing this exploration with you. Your genuine curiosity and enthusiasm have been inspiring.
Well, thank you. And for our listeners, if this conversation has sparked your interest, we encourage you to delve a little deeper into the world of Reiki. Check out the research article that we've been discussing.
Yes.
The full citation is in the show notes.
Mm.
And remember, personal experience can be just as valuable as scientific research. So if you're curious, consider trying a session with a qualified practitioner and see how Reiki resonates with you.
Always remember, when it comes to health and well-being, it's about finding what works best for you as an individual. Reiki might be a wonderful addition to your wellness journey, or it might not.
Right.
The key is to stay open-minded, explore different possibilities, and trust your own intuition.
That's such great advice.
Yeah.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this episode of The Deep Dive. Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration of Reiki. Until next time, keep seeking, keep learning, and keep taking care of yourselves.